All right, I'm here with Jacco van der Kooij, the founder of Winning by Design, which is a training and consulting company that works with large recurring revenue business models like ClickUp. I think I saw Adobe there, Demand Base, and they help them optimize their go-to-market and revenue factory. You started this company in 2013. Safe to say you guys are doing 7-8 figures in yearly revenue at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah.
think you guys are over 100 people now.
During the hype, we grew over 100 and like right around 140, 50. But today we're about 70 people.
Okay. Then it's just freelancers on LinkedIn. I saw on LinkedIn you have 113, so can never trust
Yeah,
that.
no, yeah, like something like that. But then like when economies take off, we will, like we have a very seasonality, much seasonality in our business.
Got it. Cool. Well, I'm really glad to have you here. You're very active on LinkedIn, and I've been following your content. So I'm hoping to dive both a little bit into the future of go-to-market and how AI will affect that, but then also more specifically founder-led marketing, which is obviously the main topic of this show because you're clearly a practitioner of it, and you're doing a really good job at it. So I wanted to get your take on it. But maybe as a first question, I see you talking a lot about go-to-market, how to build a revenue factory, how AI will impact go-to-market. I think companies are now coming around to the fact that it's becoming really important. What do you think at this point, January 2025, is your most spicy or controversial take that many people have not yet caught up to when it comes to the future of go-to-market?
That AI is creating a democratization of GTM. And that, over the years to come, that we won't need, you founders won't need as much funding. Because per today, most of that funding that comes right after you hit $1, $2, $3 million is supposed to be in Europe. I would say it's anywhere from a $5 to $50 million round. In Europe, in the US, it will be anywhere from like a $10 to $50 million round, right? And why? Because we spent that money on three things. First, product innovation will continue, hire new engineers. Okay, fantastic. Not something I cover, but like somebody else can talk about what to do there. And marketing campaigns and salespeople.
Yep.
Marketing campaigns and salespeople are extremely expensive. And so historically, what you have to do, what you'll see your company grow, is you see your company grow from approximately 10, 20 people, suddenly to 30, 40, 50 people, and even to 100 people, because you're hiring sellers. And for every 4 to 5 sellers, you need a manager. And for every 4 managers, you need a vice president. And for every vice president, you need a CRO. And voila, you're spending money like on a kermis, as they say, on a
Yes.
right. You are spending it, and that is unattainable for many European companies. And as a result, that means they got to stay within Europe. They got to stay within their costs. They can only spend that what they've already earned. They're not going to make too much money. Investors don't completely get this. They think they get it, but they don't completely get it. And now, lo and behold, you have an extremely successful company. You're wildly, renowned in the industry, and you run $18 million, and you can't find a way to get to like 80 or 100 because you can't open up the big market in the US because you don't have the money for that.
Mm-hmm.
And in the future, AI will help with that. AI will simply say, spend about the same amount of money on that first seller, on that first SDR, on that first, it's going to come out the same with all the training and all the stuff that's going to cost you like $100,000, $200,000. But then as the revenue scales up, you don't need to double, quadruple, and so on. But as the numbers go up, your costs do not scale up to the equal. Now, why is that? For founders, I can explain this simply, right? Mm-hmm. It's not simple, but I can explain it simply. Today, your growth that you're expected when you go from 1 to 100 is not linear. It doesn't follow a line. It follows a hyperbolical exponential curve, right? And that is created by recurring revenue in the form of either subscription or consumption. Human beings naturally don't scale hyperbolically. If I give you a shovel and I say, it's like, hey, dig a hole, then 2 human beings ain't going to dig a hole 4 times as big or 8 or 16 times as big. 2 human beings, each with a shovel, create the hole that's twice as big at best, because they start chitter chattering with each other. So
Sure.
the whole big, right? And so as I deploy more salespeople, my revenue doesn't scale exponentially, which I'm supposed to do, which I can overcome by hiring an exponential amount of salespeople, right? Because human beings do not scale exponentially. That is different with systems. What PLG showed us, hey, systems scale exponentially. Now, a lot of people misapplied, the PLG, and started to outright replace human beings and came to the conclusion that doesn't work. Okay, lesson learned. That doesn't mean that PLG doesn't scale hyperbolically and exponentially, right? And that is what we're looking for. And that's why I'm saying, as a founder, you're going to be in between 0 and 1. The next 2 years are going to be requiring your intellect the same way that you built on product, but then to build GTM.
Two follow-up questions. One, is there only an early mover advantage in the sense that not every company will immediately adopt all these new AI tools and AI capabilities? And so if you're one of the early adopters, you will have an advantage relative to your competitors. But once everyone is using AI, then it becomes commoditized, and it's not really, it doesn't matter anymore in the sense that it gets priced in.
That's the same way as saying, once everybody uses salespeople, will it still? No. It's not about once you use something, it's about, are you using it the most efficiently and effectively, right? And the latecomers to AI are not going to be the forerunners on using it the best, right? So the latecomers, the people who deploy AI first are going to deploy it in the most advanced form. What we do see, and you can see this right in front of you with the 3 AI companies, anybody that takes a lead position, the second, the third, and the fourth, it's really hard to catch up, right? Like, so that we do see already, right? And look no further than you see who are the top leaders in the industry. We don't have a pack of leaders any longer, right? Like, we don't have, and I'll use the old Pepsi Cola versus Coca-Cola versus all the dozen other colas. We nowadays have, you may know of 1 or 2 players in the industry, and then the game is over after that, right? Then it's the dozen of, also they play along for the game, but they're not really a competitor. Yeah. What we do see is that if you're a smaller company, in the world of AI, brand and trust are important, because what can I trust this AI, and can I trust this brand? So while on one side, AI will create a lot of automation and a lot of acceleration, on the other side, as a founder, you got to invest in your brand. You got to make sure that your brand is tip top, right? Like, you got to make sure that it's respected and trusted. And that means you need to have a top marketer, because the bigger brands, although they may fall a little bit behind on the implementation of AI, they do have brand trust, right? And a lot of people are going to be looking for that.
One more question on the AI before we move to the brand stuff. By the way, I just recently did a thing with ChatGPT to look up the Coca-Cola, and I think the number that I remember is that Coca-Cola has 67% of the Coke market, Pepsi has 30%, and all the remaining Cokes share 3% of the market.
That's my point, right? And you see this around you. LinkedIn is the dominant player in that field, right? Who is next behind? And you go down that list, Snowflake, who's after Snowflake? Databricks, who's after Databricks? Service Titans, who's after, you see all
GitHub,
the popular,
GitLab,
yeah, right? It's game over after two players generally.
Can you separate a little bit signal from noise with AI and go-to-market? Because I think there's a lot of hype. I saw, lots of conversations around AI SDRs where people say they're just not useful at all. What are the things that actually work in 2025 versus what is just complete bogus and hype?
Okay, everything, not everything, AI has 3 particular things it does. And when we think of it as 3 axes, 3 different dimensions that we can deploy AI. Number 1, it can do something at higher volume, 24/7, nonstop, right? Sure. Of course, can reach out, you click it on and go at it. Number 2, it can do something at lower cost. It replaces something and does it, the fraction of the cost. And number 3, it can do something at higher quality, right? Today, we primarily, and the last one, I see your frown. The last one, the example of that is it can get more contextual analysis, right? And when you're in ChatGPT and you're working with it, if you say, now pull in this document and enrich yourself in knowledge with this, and now give me the same feedback, suddenly you're going to get like a way better feedback, right? You're going to go like, whoa, because it studied the document and it comes back, oh, based on that data, here's my answer to that question, right? So it can do higher quality, it can do lower cost, and it can do higher volume. 3 axes, right? Now, these 3 axes mimic that of a factory. A factory produces it more efficiently. And since the world knew that if we just kept it at those 2, quality would falter and we would get cheap product at affordable prices, but it wouldn't work, right? We decided that we needed quality measurements, right? ISO 9000, TQM, agile and software and whatnot. We're tinkering with volume and cost, but we're not tinkering with quality yet. And so that's going to bite us in the butt, right? But these are the 3 things. Now, what that means is I can now apply that to my business and say like, hey, where am I looking for volume? Where am I looking for cost? Where am I looking for quality? If I have an inbound business and I have 20,000 leads on a day that hit my website, right? Okay, AI is going to be a fantastic role simming through, taking contextual analysis, saying, hey, focus on these 1,000, right? Apply your SDRs on these 1,000, not on the remaining 19,000. They are blah, 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 so it can guide the use of SDRs. It can, over time, it will replace SDRs. That time frame could be anywhere from immediate to 18 months, depending on your business, right? Then it can augment sales professionals. Imagine that if you have a higher ACV, you're selling a $20,000 to $50,000 product. It can sit on the call and it can, are you compliant with the European privacy laws? That is a question that a seller would have a hard time answering, and there will be a lot of hemming and hawing and tap dancing. An AI system would be fantastic on the call. And imagine that you have a hot word that turns your listening AI system from just taking notes and saying like, hey, Sybil, can you come off mute? And Sybil switches on, or whatever AI system you're using, and says, I'm here. And says like, hey, are we blah, blah, blah compliant? And you give a proper answer. Right?
Interesting.
Okay, we're there already. This is happening. This is a mere hit the button and deploy it correctly. And then we have...
Is there a specific tool or company that does this?
They're all going to have that. Yeah, we work with OneMind. OneMind does this already, right?
Okay,
number onemind.com has that.
Okay.
Fantastic. Winning by Design itself is deploying that. I can tell you we're running tests on it and it's magnificent, right? And then, the third option is where we now put the AI on the call and we want the CSMs to upsell and cross-sell, but the CSMs are really caring and so on, and they're not good at upselling and cross-selling. They don't want to, and so either you're going to have a hard-nosed seller on the call that pushes the customer over the edge but gets the dollars, or you're having a softie on the call. Sorry, I'm just dramatizing this a little bit here for entertainment, that cannot get any deal closed. Well, why don't we put the AI seller on the call with the CSM, and both the customer and the CSM can ask the AI, prompt the AI, if based on the current system, if we would upgrade, what would it be like and what would the cost be? And both the seller, so the CSM in this case, and the customer sitting on the same side of the table, querying the AI. Where do AI deploy? We don't know what your business looks like. Deploy it where it lowers the cost, where it helps you scale your business, and where it increases the quality. Whatever your jam is.
Now, you mentioned brand. Now, obviously, the name of the show is Founder-Led Marketing. So my point of view is that when you're early stage, the best way to build brand is to do founder-led marketing, because as the founder, you know your company, product, market, customers better than anyone else. You are the expert and thought leader. So it should be you out there creating content, evangelizing. First of all, do you agree, disagree with this? And second of all, how do you think is the best way to build brand in 2025?
The best brand is built by a professional. And some cases, the founder is that brand and does it naturally. But I can tell you, for every founder that does it naturally very well, there are like 3 or 4 founders that should never do it ever and have, and they should bring it on. If your strength is, like I'm a founder of Winning by Design, and I like to think that it comes natural to me, right?
Sure.
Like, but that is not the case for everyone. And if you have a very engineering, like introvert that writes perfect code, yes, they can play a brand role, but I don't want that person to start, like LinkedIn messaging, tweet, or now, short messaging on X or whatever it is. I don't think that's wise. I think that today you got to craft your brand very carefully to what it is. And for that, you need early on a marketing leader who can help you with that. Right? Doesn't need to be like a person that you pay $500,000 to go up, like somebody who gets it. Like, what is the identity of us, right? And that is able to represent that online.
Do you believe that marketing is becoming a skill that's becoming more important for founders? I think the argument that you're making, I don't think anyone would make that argument for sales in any founder, where people would say, if sales doesn't come naturally to you as a founder, then find other things to focus on. I think everyone would say, like it or not, you need to learn sales as a founder. You might not become the very best at it if you're not natural at it, but you do need to get good at it, like really good at it.
Look, obviously, again, it depends on the business. If you're very centered, look at, you'll see Snowflake. They say, "Oh, we don't need customer success managers. Customers buy from us." Yes, but you have a product conducive for that. Okay, like yes, it's easy for you to sell. Like there's a whole bunch of other customers who go like, if I pull my CSMs out, that would not. I think that what I'm trying to say here, Finn, is you need to claim what it is that you're an expert in, and you need to deploy expert resources on that. And if I go back to the start of your question, we're coming out of a decade where generalists became successful. A generalist marketer was successful. A generalist salesperson was successful. Why? Because it was green field. It was simply run out on the field, stake your claim, and say, "This is mine," right? And obviously, like as the years progressed, that was, like that happened between 2000 up to 2015, 16 was all greenfield claiming. After that, we used, and I use the analogy of oil drilling, right? Like, if you go back when oil pours out of the ground, we have an unlimited supply of whatever, $5 per barrel oil, right? And then suddenly oil gets tougher. And today we go like, well, oil is in short demand. No, it's in short demand for $5 a barrel. If you are willing to spend $1,000 a barrel, we have unlimited growth potential for oil, right? Same thing here. The growth potential was still there. It just came at a higher cost. And in order to cover for that higher cost, we need tools like automation, sales loft, and outreach, and so on and so forth, and then drift. And, like more and more and more technology was deployed to harvest that oil barrel, right? And get from $5 a barrel to $20, $30, $40. And today we sit here and we go like, the oil is gone. The current tools that you're using are no longer the right tools to harvest oil. And so, like that adjustment, now apply that. That means you need to be a marketer and a seller. Be aware of closed loop, viral loops, referrals, importance of that, events, in-person meetings at high ACV. Finn, we're going to see, and several of your listeners are going to say the following: my buyers buy from me personally. Okay, I actually buy that. No pun intended. I love that. How are you optimizing around that? Right? What are you doing to optimize the in-person buying? Because if the in-person buying is great, then don't think that just you driving with your car through Europe and hit your customer up once a month or once a quarter or once a year is going to be good enough. You need to step up that in-person selling then, right? Like, are you giving your customers more value? Are you providing a better experience on site? What are you doing? What are your track record on, right? Like all these things are then becoming more important. So I'm, so the days of like just doing something with an average knowledge are over here in the US. In the US, we still, in Europe, we still have pockets of it because often cultural, language and so on and so forth. But we help companies big and small to get through this in order to navigate them through the 2-3 years that lie ahead.
So if you need to have a marketer or a founder who is natural at marketing or branding, it's still a skill and you're clearly a master at it. What are the things that you notice that really help building customer trust What are the things that make you guys stand out? What are the few activities that drive most of the outcomes of the things that you do that help grow winning by design?
We use scientific frameworks and data-driven assessments. I think that a lot of times what we hear people say, I follow my gut. My gut tells me, and and when I say something is going to this way, then they go like, no, you're wrong. I feel it. And I go like, okay, I trust somebody's gut, the fact that they feel something is wrong, but then I need the data analysis to do it. Like for those of you who are listening, I just launched, what is today? Today is January 7th. I just launched a little LinkedIn post. And in this LinkedIn post, I talk about how do you forecast using scientific principles. And so in this particular post, I talk about like, hey, I have a range of leads. I am anywhere between 500 and 1,000 leads per month on this given scenario. And I have 12 sellers. It's a company that operates at about, like, let's say $15 to $20 million. And I have a win rate that ranges between 1 in 8 and whatever, 1 in 3, right? One seller sells 1 in 8, the other seller says 1 in 3. And the discount, again, one seller gives 20% discount, the other seller gives 30% discount. And across deals, I have this range, right? So I have this range. Well, you can use a Monte Carlo analysis to determine what the average output of that would be over 12 months. Now, like if I give that person, in this case, in this example, if I give that person $800,000 quota, some VP of sales, experienced VPs of sales will say like, okay, they're never going to hit that. Like I know that already, right? Monte Carlo analysis, in this case, in this my example, I have it run 10,000 experiments, and it comes to the conclusion that the average the average forecast is for about $420,000. What we now see, the gut of the VP of sales and the scientific analysis hits each other. That VP of sales now puts that in a slide and says 12 performers on average will perform each $426,000 times 12 is blah, blah, blah. What is that? $5 million in new revenue a year. That's a scientific driven forecast supported by somebody's gut feeling. That's the future of how sales will be treated, right? That is where we differ at Winning by Design. We go like, yes, I trust the gut. Yes, I know where to look for yes, that tells me where to look for the data, but I want to see a scientific support of that case. Now, if the VP of sales or CRO misses that number, right? If it was done based on gut and dark magic, I have nothing to rely on, right? However, if I now go back 6 months later and say we're missing the forecast, I can say, oh, based on the analysis, our win rate was lower. Our volume of leads went down. Like I can tell that and say like, hey, folks, you don't blame me. like this is right. And so based on the scientific evidence, I can pinpoint where I go wrong. Right. And if the win rate dropped down, and that is because I hired a bunch of new sellers who didn't know what to do, yes, then training may be the solution, but that may not be always the case.
When and how do you develop these frameworks? Like, do you block time per week and sit down with a question that a customer asks you and you try to solve it and you look at stuff and you develop something? Are they taken from your trainings? Like, it's hard and difficult to create frameworks, and they don't just pop into your head.
Do you have a brother or sister or a family member that does something radically different than you do?
Investment banking, I guess that's kind of different to me, my sister.
Yeah, there you go. Now, when your sister looks at everything you do, she immediately sees investment banking principles in that, right? Sure. It's like she puts on glasses and the glasses see everything. Like I'm an electrical engineer, and God may know a reason, but I'm a specialist in closed loops. Telecommunications is primarily closed loop and mean time between failure. Like that's what I used to do for Philips Electronics, right? That's where I used to, and in part help design MPEG as a standard that we now today, why you and I are able to communicate in this video here today. Like, so I look at these problems that they're throwing at me and I'm going like, that's a closed loop system. You're running currently your lead generation as an open loop system. Okay. The reason why you have such big swings in the forecast is you have an exponential factor that runs as an open loop system. Yes, that is going to have a swing out, right? It's going to call it a runaway. You're going to get a runaway system there. It's guaranteed. Now, what we are noticing today and what I'm teaching people on is your funnel is not a closed loop, it's not an open loop system, it's a closed loop system. but your mathematical capabilities are falling short to predict that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the world we're entering. We call that revenue architecture, and as you know, we throw a course on we are renowned for our course on this topic. But with this course, we provide like scientific insights into how revenue machines work, and particularly how recurring revenue machines work.
What do you think is the role of intuition in the modern day marketer? Like I've seen conversations, and I do resonate with some of them, where there's a point of view that once performance marketing allowed you to track everything and measure everything and calculate the exact cost of a lead, we started optimizing for the wrong thing, and marketers lost their common sense. Is there a role for intuition here?
There is, but it's based on like, look, intuition is based on all your senses recognizing a situation. And having been through that 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times, eventually a fireman will know if the door feels hot and steam is coming out, most likely there will be a fire behind the door, don't open the door, right? Like that's intuition, right? Intuition is repetitive patterns that have been put into your brain. So all your senses recognize it, not just your eyes, not just your mind, but your scent, the sound of it. And you go like, okay, that's intuition, right? It's based on a repetitive pattern. If the repetitive pattern in the past is predictive of what the future pattern is look like, then intuition is completely applicable. Mm-hmm. If the intuition is based on repetitive patterns that have radically changed to where we're going, then it can hold you back. So yes, both are right. Hiring. If you see a person and like a person who's been 20 years in the job, who's hired, or not necessarily the timing job, but has hired 1,000 people, has seen it gone wrong, they often can tell you, unlikely that person will work out. Trust the intuition, because the human being that it has been in the past is very predictive of the human being that they will act in the future, right? So that is where intuition helps. If it is, hey, over the past decades, we got great leads by ABM campaigns. My intuition tells us that is where we're going moving forward. I would question that, because I go like, well, things have radically changed, and customers in like MarTech no longer want to be targeted with ABM campaigns.
What are some of the recurring or patterns that you notice of the low-hanging fruit, or things that you guys fix first when you come into a new client, consulting them on their go-to-market?
Number one, they give away too much discount every time, all the time, and every customer. The whole discount thing is just ridiculous. Let me help you understand it. Mm-hmm. Previously, when software was sold, it cost you $1 million. Then we figured out in the 1990s that the software needed to be updated every 3 to 6 months because there were too many bugs written into it. So we came up with a support contract. The support contract then included an entirely new version of the software, because I know you may not recall it, but in the 1990s, when you bought Adobe, you bought the disks. Thank you very much. Here's the disk. Good luck using them. I want a new version. You got to buy a new set of disks, right? So customers figured out like rebuying the software all over again to do approximately the same felt odd. So we had this inside the support contract. We now included, and as long as you have the support contract, you get new software. What was the price of the support contract? Well, in those days, hardware was sold on a 5-year total cost of ownership. So I built this. My router is going to stay here for 5 years. So software was then written off also in 5 years. Divide the price by 5, that's 20% per year. 20% per year became the support contract. Uh-huh. Now buyers come and say, hey, you're selling me the same software that you sold to my peer 2 doors over. Why do I have to pay for the same price? Okay, I'm selling it to you as long as you pay the support contract. Now I got SaaS. In those days, late 1990s, the cloud is emerging. I'm putting it on the cloud, early 2000s. Mid 2004, 5, 6, the cloud is becoming popular only in SMB markets, smaller market segments. 2008, the market collapses. Boom, software suddenly, CapEx no longer allows you to buy multi-million-dollar software because it requires CapEx. Software comes in. Lo and behold, we have the SaaS contract subscription where we're in today, right? That's how all of that evolved. Once you see and understand the evolution of it, you can see it's very logical, as I wrote in a recent post, that outcome-based software based on AI is going to be as normal as SaaS contracts based on cloud infrastructure was the norm, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, not everybody will go there at the same time, and not everyone will go there. We'll simply end up with three models. We'll end up with a on-prem perpetual software model. We'll pay upfront model. We'll call that an ownership model. We'll end up with a subscription model, and we'll end up with a form of a consumption model, which include outcome-based pricing. And then some customers will pick one, two, or the other, right? Like, and everybody will live happily ever after as long as you pick the right model for your business.
So discounting is number one. What's the second most common thing you guys fix or get rid of?
No, I sorry. Thank you for reminding. The reason why
Yes.
I say that is in the subscription, in the contract where I pay 20% only for the software, the SaaS contract is the discount.
Sure.
The discount was the pricing model. And so we then, uneducated sellers took the average 20 to 30% discount they were giving on perpetual hardware, took that into software and said, like, this is how it's done by lifting all the prices up. But that was not done. The SaaS contract was the discount. And so what we want to see, you want to see fractional discounts, 2%, 7%, 8%, not 20%, 25%, 30%. So that's the number one thing. For the other points, I rely on your listeners to sign up for more information and listen to me elsewhere.
Do you then see that when companies stop discounting, that they still win the same amount of deals?
Yes. The thought down here is that the increase in discount does not have a linear relationship with the decrease in win rate. Right? It doesn't. It's like if I reduce the discount by 10%, my win rate ain't going to go down by 10%.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And again, I just you can analyze that. You call that a sensitivity analysis, and I just again on LinkedIn just demonstrated what that is, and you can go like, hey, I'm going from this box to that box, and often what you'll see, particularly if you have 4, 5, 6 sellers, you're generating a significant amount of additional revenue almost on the fly. And yes, occasionally, one in a blue moon, a customer will bail out and says like, oh, well, under those terms, I'm not buying. Well, understand that, but that's just the name of the game. We will take that loss against a significant increase in revenue. And so discount got to be carefully thought of. You just cannot have a VP of sales comes in and say like, oh, we're going to have a 10% and 20% and 30%. That's not going to do you justice, right? You want to have like, hey, we trade instead. So if they give us a referral, if they want a 5% discount, we need 2 referrals into peer-like, senior level-like executives, right? If you want a 10% discount, well, give us 2 referrals, give us a LinkedIn post that you, after you use it for 6 weeks, that you describe it, right? Help us make our money elsewhere, right? Like that's if you pay up front, if you want 20%, sure, that's a 2-year contract paid up front. If you're at $1 million in revenue, cash in the bank is like funding round, right? Like, so
Sure.
yeah, I'll sell you a 2-year, you want that amount? 2-year contract, all paid up front is the way to go.
Sure.
And in the low revenue that works, at higher revenue, I don't want you to necessarily think about that.
Besides companies figuring out how to use AI in their go-to-market to do things more, cheaper, or better, what are some of the other patterns that companies who will be successful in 2025 will have in their go-to-market?
By the way, Finn, I lost the second part of your question because I was enjoying the first part. You said more, cheaper, or better. That meant that you were listening. I love it. Good. So good. Give me the question again, sir.
Besides doing more, better, or cheaper with AI, what are the other things that companies who will be successful in 2025 will be focused on in their go-to-market?
With AI or without AI? Or
without
generally?
AI.
Without AI. In-person relationships. We'll see what's called an eddy, the opposite trend.
Huh.
And so AI will help very much with cheaper, better, and more. But it won't help if the human connection is still needed. So do a world-class event. Better yet, do a city event. Travel to every city and set up events in cities. Make it like every month a different city, right? And then tour through those city and bring 3 executives down there and book a WeWork for a week and run an entire office out of that city for a week.
So, so our conference is back, or is it just like conference? Don't do the classic conference. Really do these pop-up events. Be more creative with it.
Conferences are back, but not the big ones. The conferences that are back are the 200, 300 person, max 300 person conferences that are very expertise driven and expertise focused. Those are back. Those conferences will not host, and I'm saying it out loud, making myself unpopular, but the whole hero ball story where some founder stands on stage and says, I won the lottery and here's the numbers I won the lottery with, are no longer what people are looking for. We don't need hero ball. And most conferences today, they use those talking heads to attract like the seats that pay for their event, right? But that hero ball essentially is like, yeah, what are you going to have? You're going to have the founder of NVIDIA show up. Yeah, dude, I can listen to that dude on YouTube.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so commoditized now.
Yeah, it's commoditized, and so you're looking for experts within your domain, people who've done it, and so on and so forth.
All right, we're going to wrap up here because I know you have a hard cutoff and you're going to start something in 2 minutes. So, Jacco, thank you so much for your time. And all the best.
May I ask, Finn, what's your key takeaway?
My key takeaway? I think I'm not doing enough with AI. I think it's a little bit of a butt kick. So,
yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
Like once I demo sometimes per people what I do with AI, simple, just ChatGPT. I'm not even doing specific tools. ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Then like people go like, oh, I have, like, look, a new tool came out. Then the world is anew, right? Like embrace it and love it, and it's not that hard, by the way. It's like every time I laugh at how simple it is, and how many mistakes it makes, which is, look, think of AI as a hammer, right? And we're constantly saying, well, you nailed a nail in the wall, thank you, but you also broke the glass. Yes, because you shouldn't hit the hammer on the glass. Like you shouldn't try to put a nail through glass, right?
Sure.
Like you got to use the tool correctly, right? Like,
and for that, you got to use the tool to figure out what it works for. So
yeah,
whether it's good or not. All right, cool.